All right. This evening we're gonna, kind of take a step back from our usual talking with a creator or something like that, and to focus on a more serious subject. Last year, um, for those of you who may follow the blog that I write also in conjunction with this, I did an interview with Kenneth Rogers Jr. and um, basically he's taken the DC comic characters and used them for with his for to help people. Um, I'm not exactly sure how I found it, but it came across my Facebook feed, so I thought it looked interesting. And I've always loved things like the physics of superheroes and the philosophy and Batman and psychology. So, and this, well, I know is more of a real world type thing. It was interesting. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest. He's a public school teacher at Worcester City Public Schools and a member of the Rape Incest National Network Speakers Bureau. And he's also an author who's published books. So a little less of me reading about him, and let's bring him in and actually meet him. How's it
Hello.
going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. You guys hanging in there? And you're in Baltimore?
Yeah, I'm back in Baltimore, so I'm not
Yeah. Yeah.
teaching it in Worcester anymore. So
Okay.
back in Baltimore. Yeah.
Well, I knew you were in the Baltimore area because I was like, oh, if I ever go to Baltimore Con, maybe we can meet up. But
If it ever happens again, right? Like
yeah, yeah,
2020.
that's the big if.
Yeah.
So before we get into talking about your the your heroes, villains, and recover healing, um, let's. I like to ask everybody, if they remember when they got into comics, if they remember the first one that they read that got hooked. So, what's your secret origin?
Um, my secret origin is probably my first comic was the Death of Superman. That was the first one I sort of read. Went to a comic book store with my dad. Um, Bought that one. It was the really thick, like it was all of them together, and I think I still got it somewhere. But yeah, I definitely was more of a comic book like the superhero watcher, like the Batman
Hmm.
the animated series and Spider Man. Um, yeah, I watched all of them, so I wasn't. I tried to consider myself an intellectual at a young age to try and be like, oh yeah, I read books. But I tried to read like the actual novels that they had out too. Like back in the day, they had like the Spider-Man novels and um, the Superman novels, and I would get those and be like, oh yeah, I'm intelligent. Uh, so yeah, I definitely Superman. The Death of Superman was my first one.
And if you're comfortable doing it, can you tell a little bit about your background and why you kind of wrote are doing this series with using comic books as a kind of a presentation tool? I guess I'm words escape me. So
No, no, it's fine. Uh, yeah, so I'm a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, and like going to therapy and getting help. The books that we use are for specifically written for female survivors, which is great, which is excellent. But it makes male survivors feel like they don't exist, and they just uh, feel like they are the only person that this has happened to. So I started to. It makes the survivor feel very much alone. So I started to see some connections between like comic book heroes and like the ideas that were being presented in like the courage to heal, um, and like seeing like some of those things, some of those same traits that are represented in the heroes that I love throughout comic books, and also like the some of the villains as well, like some of the coping mechanisms that go along with it. So I just got hooked. I just started reading a whole bunch of material about survivors and trauma and different forms of healing and different forms of therapy, and then comic books as well. Like I started off with like the the 75 years of like Wonder Woman and like Batman and like reading those and like going back like to like the first ones and moving forward. And I did that because like I felt like I don't know enough about comic books to actually say I can I'm an expert, and I still don't. I'm nowhere near an expert on comic books to say like, well, this happened in volume three, issue one. I'm not that type of comic book buff, but I do love comic books in how they portray certain aspects of trauma and
Mm-hmm.
how to deal with it and how to deal with those coping mechanisms because um, not all heroes are good guys when it comes to like dealing with trauma and trying to cope with it and get past it, and not all villains are bad guys. They're just that's just the way their stories are written and the way their stories are told. It's just it's just really helpful to see and experience your own trauma through a fictional comic book hero rather than I don't know someone that may actually be walking and living because you see the flaws in those individuals. But when you look at a hero, you're like, oh man, those are my heroes. Those are my superheroes that I look up to. But when you see that they're messing up, you're like, okay, my humanity is there as well. So you sort of you see yourself in them, and it helps you heal. It helps you move along.
So, kind of explain how I know. Again, we talked about this before, but uh, how is heroes and villains and healing? How's that? I know you originally told me it was broken into three parts. Could you kind of explain what those parts were?
Yeah. So I broke it into three parts. I broke it into heroes, and it talks about the different heroes and their different coping mechanisms, and a lot of what it means to be like a hero, and like maybe Batman. Like everyone loves Batman, right? I mean, I just got cursed out on Facebook for having the title "How to Kill Your Batman," which is interesting. Uh, but like he's a workaholic. He's hyper vigilant, and you've got Superman, who represents those facades that we wear as not only survivors but as males, and trying to portray those different things to different people of always being in control and being strong. And so that section is really talking about the heroes that we love. The second part is really the villains and the the bad coping mechanisms that go along with it, such as suicidal thoughts, disassociation, so much to the point where it's not just Shazam, where he disassociates, where he's like a little boy trapped inside of a grown man's body, but Two Face, where he disassociates to the point where he can't make a decision without flipping a coin. Uh, and then you've got self harm individuals like Mr. Aziz, where he's cutting himself. Um, and like, unfortunately, a lot of male survivors or just trauma in the individuals with trauma in general, they identify a lot with these villains, and that's why we love them so much. It's because we see a lot of ourselves in them. And then that second part is dealing with survivors, and it deals with moving through the healing process, moving from the emergency stage all the way to like talking about your trauma and really coming to terms with it and mourning the person that is lost and never be there and never gonna yeah it's they're never gonna exist again. Um, so it really goes from really talking about you don't want to be a hero, you don't want to be a villain, but you really want to be a survivor.
Mm-hmm. So, I guess it looks like you have different. The superhero thing is a series, and you have this the I'm sorry, let me just pull it. The Superman, and then How to Kill Your Batman,
Yeah,
and I think that's those were the ones that you had coming out when we last talked. Have
yeah.
you done anything since then, or? Are you
Oh
working
yeah.
on anything or?
Oh man, I've been very busy. Uh, so like I published How to Master Your Inner Superman, uh, which deals a lot with the facades and dealing specifically with Superman, and that was fun. That was interesting. Being able to look at the different facades that we wear as males, which was excellent. And then what I just finished, and I'm waiting for the cover designs to come back, is how to save your inner Wonder Woman, and that's not written for male survivors, but that is written for the partners and spouses of survivors of childhood sexual abuse. Because while there are some books available for male survivors and female survivors, there are far few available for those individuals that are actually helping to care for those people that's going through that trauma, and what it means to have self care and practice trauma stewardship, um, and just what to expect when someone has suffered that sort of trauma, and either it initially happens or those triggers start to happen and they start to have those flashes and memories come back. So that book deals specifically with Wonder Woman, because Wonder Woman is very much about healing and
Hmm.
uh, and also being a warrior at the same time, which is like, after writing Wonder Woman, I got a whole new appreciation for her. Like she's a badass, man. Like she's
Yeah.
awesome, and she's amazing, and it's so helpful for, I mean, whether you're male or female, it's so helpful to have a book like that where it's talking about self care, especially now in the midst of a pandemic. You gotta take care of yourself.
So is this going to be a defined number of I guess titles in the series, or you just kind of taking? Are you just taking them as they come to you?
Uh, I guess like there are some that really stick out, right? There's some that really deal with trauma really well, and that's not saying like you just can't pick up a book and say, oh, I'm gonna write a trauma book using Black Lightning. Like, it would be great, but um, it comes down to like the stories that are told, and also the trauma that these characters have suffered themselves. Um, and so my plan is, after Wonder Woman, to have How to Slow Your Inner Flash, which is dealing specifically with workaholism. Ah, there we go. Yeah. So like, yeah. So it deals with workaholism, and
Hmm.
and how to, you know, not feel like you have to be running a race all the time. And that's going to be for male and female survivors, because it really deals with like not just Flash, but like all speedsters. You got Max Mercury, you got Jesse Quick, you got um, uh, what's his name? Ah,
Impulse. Far
yeah,
down.
thank you, yeah, Impulse. But yeah, you've got all these great speedsters to really um, explore the idea of workaholism and running away from your trauma, but also like how to, also villains like Zoom, like Eobard Thawne and Hunter Zolomon. Hunter Zolomon, that's a great story. Like, that's a great story, and that's one that any survivor of any trauma needs to understand if they want to make sure that they don't end up becoming the villain of their own story. Uh, so using those, like, there's certain characters that really lend themselves to that lens. Um, and I think I might redo Heroes, Villains, and Healing, um, to include Marvel characters as well,
Hey.
and
Hmm.
make it more streamlined, so that it is not specifically like broken up into those three parts, but more streamlined in the way Marvel characters and the Marvel universe really is. Uh,
Hmm.
and like talk about Spider-Man and his childhood sexual abuse, um, explore more female characters. So, and that Heroes, Villains, and Healing will be more for, it'll be for male and female survivors as well, because there's one thing I've learned throughout all this is that like survivors are survivors, and it's I don't know, it should be available for other people as well. It shouldn't just be available for male survivors, because there's amazing comic book characters that are male and female, and everyone just needs to heal, not just males but also females, and just everyone needs to try to live a better life.
Yeah. I kind of want to backtrack because I know we talked about in our as we were setting this up about the character of the Flash, which is
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
why I thought we're this tonight. But
yeah.
I think that Barry Allen, especially was you know had a lot to that you could mine from him because he lost his mother and
Hmm.
all that.
Yeah.
And now I this is something I have you read Heroes in Crisis? It was the Tom King maxi series which dealt with like the superhero sanctuary where they would go and then
Yeah. Yep. I just finished it.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Uh Initial thoughts. I mean I'm kind of interested to hear from somebody who's ex-
Yeah. So
has no,
it was like I wrote something as I was reading it. Can I read it?
yeah, sure.
All right. Cool. Um, Sorry, I still write everything freehand. I'm a weird guy. Uh,
Cool.
so it took me to like a dark place in the beginning. Like I couldn't just sit down and I couldn't just read it. It was it was dark, and it was hurtful, and it made me, I don't know, I couldn't just sit down and just flip through it like I would like many other comics. And it reminded me a lot of the way I felt after finishing Batman. Like when you sit
Mhm.
down and you just read nothing but Batman, you hate life. Like everything is dark, and you're just like you do not want to be Batman at all. Like it's a horrible feeling, and it was a completely different experience when I wrote about Superman. Like it's very much two sides of a different coin. One is very
Yeah.
much dark, one is very much light, one is very much about hope. But this version is very much Tom King's run of Batman for me. Um, and so I wrote this, and I don't know, it's called The Dark Place. All right. It says there's a hollow feeling you get when you go there, to the place with no name, the dark place. In this place, there is no light, no matter the time of day. There is no hope, no matter the level of privilege or priority. In this place, heroes lose their powers. In this place, light cannot escape. In this place, time stands still and will not allow a single moment of rest. The dark place is where we live for so much of our time, a place where we seek desperately to escape. But when we do, we feel drawn back into an inescapable event horizon that never lets go and always pulls us in, no matter the light years we travel seeking sanctuary.
Oh wow, that's wow. And no, I'm like, and that kind of amazes me that you got that from that from that story.
Well,
I
I got that from the beginning parts, right? And then like
okay,
as it progressed, and I figured out, can I give away spoilers? Can I give away spoilers? Like,
yeah, go
is,
ahead.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like when I figured out that Wally, well, when they told me that Wally was the one that had committed the murders, um, when I figured out that, and that he had killed himself, I was like,
Hmm.
he committed. So I was like, I don't know what that's saying about healing and trauma. But then I finished it, and then I saw him talking to himself and like forgiving himself, or trying to and attempting to,
Hmm.
and so I appreciated it at the end. So it very much was like me moving slowly throughout the story and um trying to, I don't know, come to terms with it. Uh, but overall, like it was great. And then I moved from that and I read Flash Forward, and it was good as well because it lets me, like, I was always upset after I finished the Mark Wade and like the Jeff Johns. I was like, what the heck happened to Linda Park? Like, Linda J Iris, like, come on, these were
New 52. New
ah,
52.
and like the whole time it's just like them trying to undo the New 52, and I was just and flash forward is them fixing it, and Linda gets
Hmm.
her kids back, and I love that because Linda's a badass, and she's amazing. Um, and I love that. So Heroes in Crisis is is a good attempt at trying to understand how trauma affects individuals. It's just it just
Okay.
it's just I don't know. My friend Michael Gomez, he commented on it's like it's a good attempt, but we need it more. But
Hmm.
it's still a comic.
Oh no, I appreciate that. I appreciate it. I mean, I read it. I got what Tom King was trying to
Hmm.
put out there. I don't know if he again. I don't know if he did it in the best way possible, but still, you know, I really enjoyed you giving your perspective on it.
Thank you. Yeah, I enjoy Tom King stuff, and he did do, like, I saw what he was trying to do, and I really appreciated that. Considering his stint in the military, I can see where that really sort of comes in to his writing, which I really appreciate in him trying to explore like that idea of trauma.
So, and not that I'm trying to help you write your books, but I think it'd be something to look into Green Lantern since his thing is willpower.
See, I'm wavering. See, so it's either gonna be after Flash, I go into Green Lantern, or
Hmm.
I go straight into Heroes, Villains, and Healing Volume Two because like I know Green Lantern, and I it's just it's so much. Like there's so much to Green Lantern. I got to get into Parallax and then Sinestro and then like there's so much there. I know if I do it,
Just
I'm gonna be sucked in and because I want to do it justice. I'm not just gonna write something that's just gonna be
mhm.
crap. And so I'm gonna like explore every single nook and cranny to make sure I'm telling a good, not only like a good interpretation of what these amazing artists and what these amazing authors have created, but also how it connects into healing and trauma. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
So maybe an easier one was the Aquaman.
Uh, I I mentioned Aquaman in Heroes, Villains, and Healing. Like Aquaman's not my favorite. I know there are people that love Aquaman, and the Momoa version of Aquaman did him pretty good justice. Uh, but like he's a really good interpretation for bottling in trauma as well. Because once he lost his son, like it all went downhill from there. He didn't express his emotions anymore, and Mara left him. So he's a really good interpretation of how you can go from happy-go-lucky riding the back of a giant I don't know seahorse to all of a sudden you've got one hand, a huge raggedy nasty goatee beard, and you're just like I'm gonna mess everybody up. I'm like, oh dang, trauma messed you up, dude. So yeah.
Well, I won't throw out the C and D characters that so you don't have to
But yeah, it's a
so.
journey, it's a process. So like as more and more come up, I keep reading, I keep exploring because I originally did DC
Mhm.
because I thought like they're darker. There's no darkness in Marvel, I thought at first, and then once I published Heroes, Villains, and Healing, people were like, "Dude, don't you know anything about the Hulk? Don't you know anything about Spider-Man?" don't you know about Tony Stark's alcoholism? I was like, no, I don't.
Yep.
But I started
Reed,
reading
Reed,
them. Yeah,
Reed Richards.
Doctor Doom, Reed Richards,
Yeah.
like all of them. So yeah, it's a lot there.
Oh, Jessica Jones.
I know, right? Like, I mean, just the show alone, where they're talking about like Kilgrave and like and it's there's so many layers there that I can't understand as a male that a woman would be able to understand a lot more about what it means to be in an abusive relationship. and those are some things like if I'm writing for male and females, I want to make sure that I'm just not touching on an issue, but I make sure I point out like, hey, I don't know everything about this, so if I don't touch on a topic, that's not because I'm just not touching on it, but because I'm in a place of ignorance and I don't get it, and like I just need more exploration. But there's a lot there in, yeah, Jessica Jones. There's a lot there. Season one. I don't know what season two. Season one.
So no, I, again, there are if you really sit down and think of it, about there are the characters that are kind of driven by some sort of trauma.
Hmm. Especially the villains as well.
Yeah. So I know again, I think I know I asked you this when we in the for the first interview, but um they've they've done comics, for like Seduction of the Innocent was about, I think, child trafficking. I think uh they did one, Seduction of the Gun, about gun violence.
Hmm.
Would would you, what, just not really asking for specific, but if you were able to do a graphic novel form like that about your you know about this, what would it be? I mean, I don't know if you've even thought about it.
I really haven't, because I don't know. Like, I read comics. Like, if someone asked me to help write a comic, I would just feel like I don't know if I should have that honor. Like, it's a it's a big deal.
Hmm.
To combine images and words together and create a whole new medium. Uh, I don't know. I don't know. I have to think about it.
So,
I'm not sure.
well, are there any artists that you're familiar with that you would think like would capture the style of art that would best give tell your story, or tell the story that you do?
No, no, I don't. I'm not even gonna like start naming names, because if those individuals like approach me, they're like, "Hey, you want to do something?" I'm like, "I don't know." Like, you're a god. I'm just gonna bow to you. So, I mean, I just love the style that they do. It's like everyone, it's like all of them are just really extremely talented, and I don't know. I would just geek
Do you
out.
have a
That's the
favorite?
entire time. Uh,
Do you have a favorite?
no,
Hey, these are the only put you on the spot questions. So
I know, but I don't have a favorite, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I'm a writer by trade, so I look at the pictures and I'm in awe of all of them. But like the different writing styles, like if they ask me to collaborate with like a Jeff Johns or a Mark Wade um a Tom King
Hmm.
or Joshua,
uh Williamson.
Joshua Williamson, like those like there's some really good writers. Like, I geek out over writing. Like Jeff Johns' portrayal of like the arguments of when he was doing the Wally West run of the Flash, like his portrayal of what it means to be like a hero or a villain, especially with a hero or the identity crisis. It was
Hmm.
so spot on. Like, what's really the difference between like a hero and a villain, besides pretty much the name and the perception by everyone else around them. So like like those are just really good artists. Like it takes like that collaboration in order to have that those ideas really come across. So I wouldn't even
Mhm.
know really where to start.
I'm sure if the opportunity arose, you would definitely find something.
I would lock myself somewhere and just read as much as I could and try and figure it out before I made any definite answers.
So, um, it, uh, okay, would you mind telling us about about what you do with the I want to get the name of the organization correctly. Uh,
RAINN,
Sorry. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Rape Abuse Incest National Network.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
So go ahead. Go ahead.
no, no, go ahead.
Uh, yeah. So Rape Abuse Incest National Network. They have like a speakers bureau that go out and they do speaking engagements and they talk to individuals about their trauma and just make the public a little bit more aware. And I've done public speaking pretty much all of my young adult life into my adult life, and I felt like since I'm very well trained, uh, national and a little bit of an international circuit of public speaking, just use my talents to sort of spread the word and help other survivors, and other individuals know what it means to be a survivor.
Nice. Anything that maybe you wanted to make mention of that I may have not have asked you about, or
I don't think so. Uh, nah, I mean, this is your interview. I'm just here tagging
no?
along.
Well, I just want to say it's after kind of touching base with you through Facebook, it's nice to put a actual face with the messages.
Thank you. Same here. Like it's good to always see people that have touched on my work or just reached out and been like, hey, it's a good thing you're doing, rather than like the trolls I get that are always like, shut up. And it's always nice to hear people that are encouraging.
So, where can people, if they want to find out, find more from you? Where can they go? Where can they get your book?
Everywhere. Like it's on Amazon. I also have audio recorded all of my books, so I know like there's a huge stigma behind like being a male survivor, and to hold a book and just read it and just possibly other people start to question like that in itself is a huge amount of stress and fear. So I recorded the audiobooks and they're either available on Audible or audiobooks.com or even like Google Play. Um, so I've recorded those. Uh, yeah, they're everywhere. They're available.
Well, I'll definitely at least include the link to your website.
Yes, it's
Um,
lostimaginations.com.
and so, kind of, are you? I know we've kind of talked about it throughout the interview, but are you reading anything that's kind of really caught your attention? Currently,
Um, so I've been reading a lot of Flash lately. Like I've been sucked into a lot of Flash because I've been preparing myself to sort of start writing this new guide. So I just finished a bunch of Wonder Woman, but I'm also reading just some nonfiction books, like Flow, where it talks about
hmm
like how to get into your flow as a good individual, and then uh, Perfect, trying to live. There we go. So perfect. And I'm a middle school teacher, so like my days are spent in front of a screen right now trying to teach the Castle Diaries and the Midwife's Apprentice. So uh, and I'm also a dad who's also trying to teach their first and kindergartners how to manage online, get things done. And then I'm also a husband who's also trying to be as
Mhm.
supportive as possible to his wife, who's also a teacher, uh, as we move through a
Oh,
pandemic. So it's a it's a lot.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, it's the worst nightmare ever. Yeah,
I mean, I've
but
I've, I've been
I
working
made my closet look pretty awesome.
better than my back room. So, where was I going with this? Anyway, so now I completely lost my train of thought because we were we
Well,
were talking.
you were just asking me like different books that I'm reading, if there's anything,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and then I went into a tangent
Um,
about me being a teacher.
are you caught up on the Flash?
No, so I tried to like watch uh, uh, Crisis on Infinite Earths,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know, I couldn't do it like because it had me jump around to the other different stuff like Wonder
Mm-hmm.
or Supergirl and like all that. I was just like, I can't do this. And so I tried to pick back up with it after Crisis. I just haven't lately yet because I've been watching Woke on Hulu, and then like just trying to sleep. Like it's so hard during the pandemic. Uh,
Yep.
but yeah, I'm glad they
Uh,
included Chester though. I like Chester.
my even since we've been kind of staying at home, of course, in March, my 3 year old, now 4 year old, uh, gets up regularly at 6 and 7. Sometimes 5:30 on the weekend.
Oh yeah, I'm right there with you. Yeah, mine have gotten to the point like we've trained them well enough to like if they wake up early, they just close our door and then they like know how to work the TV and they're like good. But most of the time I'm up anyway. I'm up by 4 or 5 to get work done.
Hey.
Yeah, workaholic right here.
Yeah. Oh, I think somebody's writing a book about
Yeah, I might have to check it out.
that. So yeah, again, it was nice to finally, talk to you and meet you in person. Anytime you ever have anything that you would like to, talk about, or even if you just want to talk about the Flash, and or
Yeah,
kind of, you're more than welcome to, let me know, and I'd love to have, I'd love to have you back and get maybe there's something coming up, or your insight would be, kind of help me understand, what I'm reading.
yeah. Like I'm always down. And
I
then
don't know
if
if that makes sense. So
it does, and if we ever get like Balticon back, uh, we'll hook up then. Um,
yeah, definitely.
if it ever happens, 2020 needs to end now.
All right. Well, again, thank you for taking the time this evening to talk with us, and you know, stay safe, stay healthy, and I hope to continue talking to you on a regular basis. And if you ever need 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 worse comic book knowledge, then right here.
Yes, yes, I'm definitely know where to go. Thank you, Chad. Yeah, I definitely know where to go.
All right. Well, again, great talking to you. Nice to finally meet you, and have a good evening.
Thank you, you too. Thank you so much.